Hi everybody, it's your boy John of J Dutch Millinery and welcome back to my channel. And today we are talking about copying, plagiarism, inspiration, same inspiration, whatever you want to call it in the millinery industry. This is not a video calling anybody out specifically about copying. However, there are a couple of things I just want to kind of say before we get into this video. I have been approached by numerous people who have been accused of copying, and it tends to be the same two people that have been mentioned. And I've done a little bit of look into the work and specifics of what was said by the accused, and trying to find out examples of could it be copying. And I just have to say, what I've heard, whether or not it's true, if it is true, is absolutely disgusting. Being threatened for using the same materials, being threatened to expose and ruin, being threatened, saying that let me get up what. Being threatened to expose the copies and do the most amount of damage possible to somebody's reputation. When I've looked at the similar things, and they're not copies from my perspective. So these people that are doing the accusing, and I have three people have come to me, and they've all three people have mentioned the same two names. So those two people are probably not going to be watching this, but still, if you do, you cannot say that a specific material cannot be used by anybody else because it's only available in a certain country and they use that material in that country, so you can't use that material. Like, what? No. I have been asked by numerous people not to mention them by name, and not to mention the accusers by name. I mean, I wouldn't have done that anyway, but not to mention the accusers by name, because they will probably come for me for talking about it. I ain't bothered. I'm not scared. I mean, I'm not going to, because I have seen some evidence of what these people have said, but I have also been asked not to share this. So I had a whole part of this video about that, and I had to scrap that because I don't want to say anything without evidence to back up what I'm saying. But yeah, the things I've heard is disgusting. So it kind of inspired me even more to put this video out. I want to look at why do we see copies of similar styles in the industry, and the reasons why. Everything I say in this video is my opinion. Don't take any of this as fact. I implore you to do your own research. I implore you to come up with your own ideas about this, and I would love to know what you think in the comments down below. This can be or could be a controversial subject, so I've tried to make it as non-controversial as possible. So without further ado, let's crack on with this video. Okay, so I have a script for this, so I have been writing like this essay, and I'm not very good at memorizing, so if I'm looking kind of down, it's because I have it in front of me, so I just want to be able to be honest about that. Okay, so first of all, what is the definition of the word copy? According to the Cambridge Dictionary, it means to produce something so that it is the same as an original piece of work. We see copying a lot in fashion. Diet Prada has made a thing out of calling out copycats on Instagram, but it did get me thinking, like, what about the millinery industry? Like, what happens to copying in the industry? Why do we see copying, and why do we see people taking the same inspirations or coming up with the same inspirations without necessarily copying? And what this video is about is looking at copying in the industry, and why do we see a lot of similar styles without necessarily things being copied. So that's pretty much what this is about. So I have wanted to make this video for a while, since I came across a so-called case of copying, which I will talk about later, and then I had half of this essay written back then, and I just didn't really feel like it was the right time to talk about it. And then I stumbled across a 2016 article by the Sydney Morning Herald about copying in the millinery world, and I was like, let me just finish this essay. It's definitely something I can talk about, so here I am talking about it. In that article, numerous milliners talk about having their designs copied by bigger corporations, or having their designs ripped off and mass produced in places like China. And I've taken a quote from one such milliner, Jill Humphreys, who's quoted as saying, "Everyone feels copying is rife, but no one wants to be the unpopular person who says something," she said. "You can be inspired by colours or technique, but you do it your own way. People do a 2-day course and think they're a milliner. It's taken 6 years for me to get where I am." End quote. But how do we come to that? Why are we so scared to talk about copying, and why do we see copycats? I just want to say, for the record, these are my own opinions and what I feel could contribute to the reasons that people copy. But as always, feel free to give your opinions in the comments down below. So the first reason why I believe we see a lot of similar styles and a lot of copies is due to lack of professional training. So I was lucky to study professionally and get accredited H&D in millinery at Leeds College of Art, now Leeds Art University. And I was taught many other things apart from how to make a hat. We learned how to express ourselves creatively, how to take a theme and formulate it into many ideas, how to collaborate, how to make our own blocks, photography, the list goes on. And this is why I've managed to use my Percher block in many of my videos and turn out relatively different looks for each one. However, that course is no more, and it's becoming harder to gain professional qualifications in millinery. Many people are learning techniques taught by milliners who have been in the industry for a while, but this will only give a small learning of what the industry is like as a whole. Good example, Cynthia Bryson and Ian Bennett, I mean, they're both good milliners, like amazing milliners, but they are both known for their featherwork specifically. Like, some of Ian's featherwork is just out of this world, absolutely beautiful. Cynthia, the same. She's known for a specific style, so when you go to one of her classes, you will learn that specific technique. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to learn everything about millinery. You're going to learn that specific technique. And to gain a full understanding of millinery this way, students are going to have to learn from many different milliners. If you want to learn millinery as a whole through that way, you are going to have to take classes by lots of different milliners, so you get a lot of different techniques and a lot of different understanding from different milliners, and understanding how to do things correctly, how to do things the millinery way as opposed to a specific way. Another thing is, and that will only teach the techniques, it won't necessarily always teach you how to adapt and apply these techniques to your own work. To reiterate what Jill Humphrey said, there are too many so-called milliners who think they're a milliner after doing a weekend course, learning how to assemble a small fascinator, or even worse, buying pre-made shapes and putting on a pre-made trim on top and then calling it a bespoke piece. I mean, disclaimer, huge disclaimer, I'm not against people doing that. It is a way for people to work with shapes and styles that they're not necessarily going to be able to work with unless they invest in those specific blocks. And those specific blocks they may or may not use. It's a way of introducing people to the industry and getting them excited to learn more. If I was to use flowers, for example, in my work, I would have to buy pre-made flowers. I'm not a flower maker. I don't know how to do it. I mean, it's something I would like to learn this year, but it's not something I know. I could probably figure it out, but it would make sense for me to learn. But if I did want to use flowers, I would have to use pre-made ones. But the difference is, I would be putting them on a hat or a base that I had made with my two hands, that I had wired, that I had stiffened, that I had blocked, that I had put the ribbon inside, put the ribbon on the outside, trimmed in other ways, covered it in fabric. There's a lot of different things that separate that from somebody buying a pre-made block and sticking a trim on top. But when people are making a living from selling items using all pre-made items, it does encourage copycats, not only in the industry but sort of like corporations, because they see these pieces being made, they see where they get them from, they see that they can get them in bulk a lot cheaper, and copies are made, and then in department stores you see all of the same styles. Now, that's not something I want. That's not something I want to see. If I want to see millinery in an department store, I want to see like nice, not necessarily bespoke, but more, you know, these have been made by hand pieces. So that's just me. The next reason I think that we see a lot of copying and a lot of copycats and a lot of similar styles is due to the tools available. So, specifically hat blocks. So to make a basic hat with a brim, you're going to need to block your foundation material on a crown block and then a brim block. What I did is I went to my top 3 hat block makers and I counted on average how many crown blocks and how many brim blocks they had. So on average, a block maker has around 75 crown blocks for sale and 84 brim blocks for sale. While I was there, I looked at the fascinators as well, and all the little button pieces, all the little headpiece ones, and I looked at how many they had, and they had about 58 different listings on average. Sounds like a lot. Well, when you actually look at it, a lot of the blocks are similar styles. They're similar shapes and will produce similar hats. On top of that, you will find different cloche brim blocks, you will find different fedora, trilby, crowns, which was ever so slightly different, but for, you know, somebody in the industry, you know that you can see the difference. So a lot of these things will produce similar work, even though two people may have different blocks, but they produce similar work. I mean, take these two blocks for example. Both of them are double-sided brims. One side has a dome style and the other side has a more angular style. And I'm not saying one block maker stole the idea from the other or vice versa. What I'm trying to show is you may have different suppliers for your equipment. You buy two different blocks, but they've got similar styles. And what that will do is different people are buying from different people, different suppliers, but they're going to produce similar work due to the equipment that they use. Unless you own the right to a shape and you ask your block maker not to repeat that shape, you are going to end up buying off the shelf, which is going to be bought by other milliners, which will produce the same styles because you block and it's that shape. That's going to be what happens. Like, I'm going to talk about this later, but a boater is a boater. A trilby is a trilby. A fedora is a fedora. A beret style will produce a beret style. A pillbox will produce a pillbox, and X, Y, and Z. Like, you are going to naturally produce similar shapes. Now, I'm just talking about shapes at the moment. You are naturally going to produce the similar shapes. So that's when another reason why you see similar styles, because the shapes are the same. Now, I know we can like, yeah, but you can block different things, you can do different colours, and I'm about to talk about material choice next. So, most millinery is made from a small pool of foundation materials, which are cinnamon, straw, ginseng, bacca, buckram, felt. There are other things that you can make hats with and you can block with, but these are the top level sort of like materials. So it's not necessarily the biggest pool of foundation materials to start with. I mean, I know cinnamon comes in a lot of different colours, X, Y, and Z, but if you don't have a dyeing setup at home, which I mean, this is my studio here, I can't dye here because this is a rented apartment, so I can't dye here. I have to rely on pre-made colours, pre-dyed cinnamon, if I'm using cinnamon, for example. So you know, not only are you got the same blocks, but a small pool of foundation materials, and then in them foundation materials, there's a wide variety of colours, but still not huge variety of colours. You know, you are going to see the same shapes in the same colours, and especially when a certain colour or a colour palette is trending. You know, for example, certain colours are always in trend. Navy, black, baby pink, blush colours. These are you're always going to see these colours. But when a colour is trending, say yellow, for example, you are going to see a lot of the same things, especially if you're using a more traditional material like, I don't know, cinnamon. You are going to see a lot of cinnamon hats because it's trendy. Everybody wants cinnamon. Everybody wants yellow. You are going to see the same things. Now, I know you're screaming at the screen at me. It's what you do with it. It's how you trim the piece that sets it apart, and that is very true. However, you can find unique trims on similar hats, or not so similar hats. Got an example for you. So in 2017, I posted a video using a habitat chandelier as a trim. So it was a metallic chandelier that you pull up and you twist and around a light bulb, and it's kind of like a whatever. And then later in the same year, somebody else used the exact same trim on a hat. The difference is, they used the trim in a completely different way to me. I had a silver and I coloured it with Sharpies, which was just why. But they used a black one. They put it around the edge of the brim. I clumped it all together as like a thing here. Which means, yes, the trims are the same, and it's got a similar vibe, but that's it. I mean, when I saw the piece, I was genuinely happy that either somebody had the same idea as me, or they was inspired by something I put out into the world. Now, had they made the exact same piece, I would have been annoyed, but they completely didn't. They used the same trim in a very different way, but it was still the same trim, and it was obvious it was this. If you was to put them together, you'd be like, oh, that's the same trim. I mean, honestly, like, hers is better than mine anyway, so, you know, hey, I mean, once again, I'm using this as an example of when people use the same thing, which is what I talked about at the beginning of this video, my little rant at the beginning of this video. People can use the same thing, and when you're draping, there's only so much you can drape in a certain way. You know, we are taught that height, people want height, especially those that are like a little bit on the shorter side. You want to give people height. Even tall people probably want a bit more height. You know, you always want height, so you're always going to drape it in a way that gives height. Like, I don't know what the issue is, but whatever. Here's another take, okay? Crinoline visors. Now, once again, I do not claim to have invented this, nor will I ever, okay? In 2017, I mean, I was busy in 2017, I made a small range of crinoline eye masks / visors to complement a collection of a friend. So, didn't think anything of it. I'll revisit this, you know, in a couple of years. It's maybe something I can do as like a little mini thing, and, you know, whatever. And then jumped to earlier this year when I saw a range of crinoline eye masks / visors. And initially I was like, hang on a minute, that's my idea. Like, no. But then I took a step back and I was like, it's not my idea. It's an idea I had. It's an idea that I did. It's an idea that I put out into the world, but it's not my idea. I did mine in a certain way. They did theirs in a very different way. And it goes to show you can take a similar style and take them two different ways. Just because they're the same style, a crinoline visor / eye mask, doesn't mean that they are copies. People can have the same idea and take it in different ways. I mean, I did want to sort of revisit that in the, like, this year, next year, but then I was like, well, I don't want to be labelled as a copycat, so, you know, I've put it to bed and I kind of did my resin pieces instead, so whatever. Here's another one. So those are two examples of when, you know, there were similarities. That's it, they're not copies. Similarities of when, you know, stuff I'd made and I'd seen other people do something similar or use the same trim or whatever. I mean, I wasn't necessarily accused of copying, but I did a video in 2016, which was met with somebody who'd commented that one of the hats I made for a YouTube video had a similar to Anna Pribliova signature styling due to the fact that I used a broken mirror ball to embellish a hat. Does it mean I copied her? No. We had similar ideas, and it just turns out that she is renowned for using mirror in her masterpieces. Does that mean nobody can use mirror pieces in their work? No. I mean, the one I made is so different to any piece that she's ever made. Mine was kind of more disco ball. I mean, you know, for starters, mine were like mirror squares and actually came off an actual mirror ball. You know, looking at her work, their strips, their elongated mirror strips, beautiful, but it's a different thing. Like, she uses strips, I used squares. You know, I styled mine with quills to represent the colours reflecting from the from the mirror ball. Like, it's very different, very different. But I can understand why somebody said, oh, this is kind of very similar to like what she did. I'm like, yeah, cool, okay. She's clearly got a good style. Like, you know, did I copy? No, you know. Next up is trends. So the good old topic of trends. And this is where the word copy generally gets thrown around. So, and sometimes, not always though, for good reason. So look at when boaters were a trend. 2018, 2019 saw the arrival of boaters as a trend in millinery. Style is easy to make and also very easy to recreate. I have a video showing how I made a boater hat. I mean, this was another 2017. I was busy in 2017, but 2017 I had a video on how to make a boater. It wasn't like an out there piece, but it could give you the general idea of how to make a boater. I mean, this was way before the trend started, so nobody can call me out for like copying anybody's boaters. Thank you very much. They were everywhere. I mean, one was even part of the Millinery Collective in 2019. So when you have a shape associated with a style, a limited colour palette due to supplier choice and or colour trends, naturally you are going to start to see very similar looking shapes. And I say that in terms of like a style, a colour, etc. Add on to that people taking similar courses, learning techniques, for example brim extensions, which were on a lot of boaters, then you are going to start to see very similar looking pieces made by completely different people. It's just going to happen. Whether that be intentional or not, you are going to start to see very similar looking pieces. Next up is I wasn't sure about adding this, but I do feel like it has a small contribution to copying, and I'm hoping I'm hoping what I say conveys what I mean, because I struggled a little bit with trying to figure out how to word this. So, public perception of millinery pricing. Millinery is expensive. There, I said it. Millinery is expensive. To the untrained eye, I can see why purchase of millinery could gravitate to the less expensive hats found in department stores and by mass-made suppliers. I mean, why spend £300 plus? I mean, that's relatively cheap, but £300 plus on a hat when you can find something half the price and looks similar? Or why not go to a less known milliner who charges less and get something made that's a replica? And I'll go that in the next section, so don't worry about that. This is something that most, if not all, milliners struggle with. People not understanding the time, the patience, the training, the years, the knowledge, and the skills needed to make true millinery. Hence the cost associated with purchase. I've been making hats on and off for, say, 10 years. And I'm still learning, and I'm still growing. And the stuff I make now, which may look easy, it's because I've been doing this for so long. I got a video cut out. I mean, like I said, I've been making hats on and off for 10 years. And we're always evolving, we're always learning new skills. And this just adds to our skill base, pushing out and helps to push our designs and our creations further, making more wonderful pieces of art. The issue is the public don't see this. They want something affordable and something now. You know, many will go to Debenhams, David Jones, Myers, or whoever the local department store is, and find something relatively affordable. I mean, take this headband for example. When I say headband, it says headband, but I say headband in inverted commas because this is not a headband in my eyes. This is on a headband, and this is a fascinator. But I digress. It's just shy of $60, or roughly about £30. And this can be delivered to you in 4 to 7 business days. Now, I don't know about you, but most millers wouldn't be able to make that for that price and be delivered free within 4 to 7 business days of the client making the order. Yeah, I know you could buy cinema in bulk, but once again, I don't see most milliners making orders for 50 to 100 metre rolls of cinema just in case they get an order in that colour. The sixth and final area that I think contributes to similar inspiration, similar styles, similar copies, for example, is the finance and time cost of millinery as a maker. Now, millinery is expensive, but it's also expensive generally as a maker. So making millinery as a novice is very expensive. Materials and equipment to make a piece can easily add up, and when you're new to the industry, unless you have time, money, and or an ability to learn, it can be difficult to carve out a niche for yourself, as you need to know the rules to be able to adapt the rules to your way. So, you know, if you haven't had the training, you know, I'm going to refer back to those that take the 2-day courses and don't have the funds to do more training, then I can see how easy it is to fall into the trap of either making what you have been taught or trying to copy others to self-learn. If you don't have the money coming in from making your work, then I can see how you could take a commission to make something inspired by something or somebody else. If you don't have the time to learn or experiment, I can see how you can look at others to get inspiration on what to make. I'm not saying I agree with any of this, but I am coming at this from the lens of somebody who is new to the industry without any formal training. Milliners make some amazing work, and it's easy to fall into the trap of comparing yourself to somebody creating amazing creations. I can see the temptation to copy. You know, somebody has demonstrated that particular look can be done, leading to less risk for the novice, as they've got something to copy with. You know, it will help them learn that technique, it will help them understand that style. So I can see why. Do I blame them? No. You know, that's kind of one of the reasons why I started this channel, was to experiment, to learn, to take the risk on people's behalf by, you know, see, does it work? How does this work? What does this do? How can I incorporate this? You know, I mean, I will say though, if a novice milliner does copy work to self-learn, which I don't necessarily 100% agree with, but if they do, then, and they go on to sell that said work, people in the industry know. They will notice. And whether or not you agree with it or don't agree with it, you know, I think it's in a little bit of a bad faith than, you know, to copy and then sell. If you're copying to learn, do I agree with? No, but you know, if that's what works for you, then that's what works for you. But you know, people in the industry, you know, do know this, and by all accounts, seem to be talking. So you know, that's at your risk, really. So how do you avoid being labelled as a copycat? Just don't copy. Not even to figure out how to work with the technique. Unless you were learning as part of a class, you obviously you are going to be learning a specific technique, and you'll probably emulate a certain style. What I would suggest is, even if you've made a piece in this class, several other people are going to have made something very similar. So what you do is you go home, deconstruct the piece, remake it using elements of that technique on something else. So not only are you going to be making something unique, you're going to be using that technique again, solidifying your skills in that technique. If you are sketching designs that you may use in the future, you know, you might not be using them in this collection or this year, but you definitely would like to work with make this style. Make sure you date your sketches, and not only date your sketches, but take photographs of your sketches, ideally on a smartphone. And the reason why, on most smartphones, photographs are dated. I mean, I know, like on an iPhone, you've got your photo thing, which will tell you what year it was made, like the photograph was taken. Like, you know, it's so easy. And the reason why I bring this up was because, and this is what I was talking about at the beginning of the video, I came across a case of somebody who, I saw something about, you know, somebody saying somebody's copying me, and then a couple of days or maybe a day later I saw somebody else saying, I'm not copying, this is my these are my sketches. And looking into it, so I've done my own research into this, okay, so from what I can gather, the person being accused made a specific style in 2018. The person doing the accusing seemed to make theirs around 2019. Now, all I can go by is a copyright notice, a copyright dated 2019. So I could only go by that. And then they accused the person who made it in 2018 of copying them in 2020. Now, where do you go with this? Because you know, who made it first? Whose design is it? Whose idea was it? You know, I'm not going to show the examples. I'm not going to show examples of the hat, because I feel like either side could be easily identified from me doing so I'm not going to do that. But what I would do say is be sure to date your work and photograph your work, even if it's just sketches. Even if it's just sketches for now, because then you've just got a little bit of evidence to show that you did come up with an idea independently at a certain time. So, another way that you can kind of get a signature style or be a bit more unique is by buying vintage hat blocks, which come for sale on places like Facebook. Now, in my experience, due to the price, which is still quite reasonable, but still quite expensive for many, you generally do see the same people purchasing the more unique shapes to add that to their collection. But you can get in there, as long as you are there bang on time, you generally can get a good bargain. A lot of these shapes are similar shapes that you can get today, but they're just vintage. But there are some beautiful, unique looking blocks that you can then produce very unique looking pieces. So that is a way of being unique and very easily. But you see, you can't do that. Say you don't come across it, say you not even on Facebook, for example, then one way you can use current day, modern day blocks is by not using necessarily the way they were intended or with the styles intended, example, using a fedora block with a ladies brim, a large ladies brim, or use, which I know has been done before, but you know, it's an example, or using a trilby block with a trilby brim with a rounded top. You know, just because a certain brim is supposed to be used in a certain way doesn't mean it has to be used in that way. So that is another way to kind of take what you already have and use it in a different way. You know, do you have to use the brim block the entirety of the brim? Can you not cut it down smaller? Can you not, for example, maybe customize the block with maybe some strings, so then you've got grooves and you've got lines? You know, there are a lot of different ways to adapt things to make things a bit more unique, or just change them up ever so slightly. Next up, figure out how to take a technique to the next level. So to do this, you will need to experiment. I'm aware that some people are nervous about experimentation due to the cost of materials and the fear of ruining the materials to the point that you can't use them again. I get that. But without experimenting, you won't be able to see where you can take your own personal style. Now, personal style is one thing, you know, people may have similar personal styles, and I get that, but generally you have your own style, and once you find that, you more than likely will not have any issues with people saying that you're copying them. So, you know, but things that we can't change. We can't change hat styles. We can't change the prices of things, because things are priced because they're expensive to make. Hat blocks are expensive to make. There's an art to making hat blocks. There's a skill to making hat blocks, just like making a hat. There is an art to it. There's a skill to it. There's a reason why it costs what it costs. Likewise with materials. There's a reason why things cost what they cost. And you know, this is not a things should be cheaper video. No, the things are cost what they cost because that is what they cost, and that, you know. But what we can do is understand that in terms of everything else. And God, I'm so dry. I've talked for like nearly an hour. Things like learning. Learning is probably one of the big ones, and I think we need a lot more professional learning. Gone are the days where milliners would have a team of people that they would train and pass on them skills. You know, I mean, people don't wear as many hats these days. So, you know, I understand why. I'm just saying, like, if we want to do this, we need like a bit more formal training. There used to be a master's in fashion accessories, which I know you could specialise in millinery at somewhere in London. I can't quite remember which university it was, but they had that course, and it's no longer there. You know, I think we need to invest more in training for people. There needs to be more opportunities. Now, once again, I'm not saying that it needs to be cheaper. I'm just saying it needs to be more of an industry that people want to get into and can get the correct training. I know in Australia there's 3. I know back home you can do a HNC or H&D. I can't remember which. I think I did a H&D. I think it's just Kensington and Chelsea College. There are only certain places that you can get accredited training, and I think that's partly an issue that there's not people that are trained. So I do call upon the milliners and the millinery associations, the British Hat Guild, the British Millinery Association, the Association of Australia, the Netherlands British Hat Guild, the Netherlands Hat Guild, to look into how can we make training more available for an industry which we would all love to grow. You know, I think I think one of that for me, I think the biggest take from this is training. I think that that's half of the issues, is people are not sufficiently trained enough to be able to understand where millinery can go, and to take their millinery from a 2-day course learning how to make fascinators to how to make hats. And that's all I have to say on it. I hope that a lot of this made sense. I do have a tendency to ramble, so yes, I know, I'm very much aware I do have a tendency to ramble, and I've realised I've been recording this and it's quite dark, so hopefully I can fix this in post. So I reached out to you all on social media. I wanted to get your take on things, and some very different opinions and comments. We have people in the costume industry whose job is to look at fashion plates and look at fashion things and recreate them for plays, for modern day, for TV shows, for lots of different things. So, you know, where do we draw the line with that? Should we be not referencing hats from the past? Because technically it's copying, so you know, that's one take on copying and inspiration. We have people who have said that they were taught they could borrow elements from other people. There were people who, if you are copied, take it as a compliment and move on. I mean, one thing that did stick out was Philip Rhodes, who posted a lengthy passage, and it was very well written, and it, you know, I'll link it all down below so you can actually view all the comments, but he ended his with saying, all I can say is I did it first and I did it better, which is, you know, it is a very positive way to look at this. People were posting about certain books, like how to steal like an artist, like idea, you know, how to, I mean, I haven't read this book so I can't comment on it. I mean, one thing that came up was the idea of IP and copyright. Now, I don't understand IP and copyright, like I said at the beginning of this video, so I'm not going to kind of comment on that, because it's too much. Like, there's so much involved in it. Like, I don't want to say anything that is wrong, so I'm just gonna not talk about copyright and IP, although that is a whole video of its own. We have such things as simultaneous discovery theory, which, I mean, I did read into, but I was like, it was too much for my brain to process. You know, I'm a creative, I don't understand complex theories, so I was like, okay, but yeah, people can have the same idea at the same time, because if you're inspired by something modern, many people are going to have seen this and maybe get the same inspiration for the same things. So that is a good take on it. A lot of people are saying all art is inspired by something. You are inspired by what has happened in the past, and you know, you take that and then you evolve it into something modern. A lot of people did comment saying that Walter Rayner had chatted about this on a Hatmobile page. Now, I didn't check that out because I wanted to do this video and have my opinions without that being tainted by somebody else's opinion. I wanted to present my opinions, my thought process on this before I went ahead and sort of listen to everybody else. So you know, that was that. Quite a few people had talked about being copied, and there was a lot of different takes on this. So I'll link everything in the description box below. All my sources I will link in the description box below as well, so you can check everything out. I hope that this video made some sense. I know I have a tendency to ramble, so apologies for that. Thank you to my patron Reggie, who has been a continuous support on this channel, so thank you. You know, it enables me to be able to sit and make videos like this, which are not necessarily going to be a tutorial. I tend to see stuff like that. Non-tutorial videos don't necessarily do as well on this channel, but I kind of wanted to talk about this, so that's why I'm doing it. All my social media is linked in the description box below. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications. Thank you very much. If you have any topics for a long form video like this in the future, let me know. Like, you know, maybe I can do a video like this on another different topic. So let me know in the description box below. Thank you very much. I have been John. You have been great. I love you all. Bye. Well, thank you for watching this far in this video, and this is my end of video fitness update. So if you have got this far, thank you. It's a long video, I'm very much aware. So every week I'm going to be putting in this at the end of the week, because I've got I'm putting it in to see if I can motivate myself to get fitter. So last week was the first week of my 4 times a week at the gym for 4 weeks. Week 2 is over, and I went again for 4 times this week. Health-wise, eating-wise, has not been good, but I have been going to the gym. So this week is week 3 of 4, so hopefully I'll go 4 times again, and then next week is week 4, and then at the end of that I can actually then buy myself a brand new hat block. So there you go, there's the update, and yeah, I'll see you next week.